This line here, which is the chine on the outside that you have seen us working on for could be years now. And originally we were trying to get like that very strict sharp line. We're having trouble with that. And now we have begun to round it out more. It's looking better, but to be honest, it's pretty much the only thing that's stopping us in so many areas from getting the final coats of primer and paint on. So I am done. Well, since we're gonna need blinds for this area anyway, just kind of like the drop down, we're not doing curtains. We're thinking about doing kind of like a trim up here that's going to hide this. The blinds will drop down. The only thing is there are certain areas that is not going to work, and that would be in the heads, the wet heads especially. So here, I'm gonna have to kind of keep working that line, and these were looking pretty good on their own anyway, so these will stay, the heads will stay. The rest of the areas like this will just get a trim or blinds or something to kind of hide that. But I'm gonna go through and just do one more pass with our fine filler over these and get these areas one step closer.
We've gotten so close with this line now that we've rounded it out. So we're doing exactly like what Max Cruz is doing in the factory now. And we have made the large radius, gotten to this point. So I feel actually pretty comfortable in saying that we kind of understand how this works. So now it's time to cover it with trim. I know I can hear the collective groans from everyone. But we've said it before, you know, we really like to figure out the solutions to these issues. So now that we do feel like we have a pretty good grasp on how to do it, now we feel like we can move on and kind of progress. What we're showing here is this is obviously the wrong size. It's a little bit big. We need something to change the look of this big mass area here. We want to kind of break it up a bit. So we are thinking now to do this wood trim. This would be out roughly this position here. So you can see it creates like a big shadow there. Within that or under that area is where we're going to have the roller blind. We can do some uplighting. We can do stuff like that. But if you remember, I purposely didn't run wire to this side of the boat because I want to keep everything centralized there. So it'd be fairly difficult for me to do wiring behind there. And so I don't think that's going to be our initial plan. Put it there. But if you look back, all I can do is kind of hold this right now. But if you look back, I think it does a really good job of breaking up this area. It adds a little bit of color here where overall it's a very white wall. In the overhead that's going to drop down, most likely will be kind of a light gray, a brownish gray. So I think that will fill in well with there when we have the color coming through here for the actual window. And then the front of the doors will be wood as well. So it'll tie this all together. So that is the plan now. That we're going to do a little bit larger than this. I just put 2 pieces of wood trim that I had together just to get an idea what it looks like. But back here, so along all this way, even going over the top of the chain plate, we'll have that cover on it. Back here though, if you look, it might be kind of hard to see, but the window drops down from this position to this position. So there's a big gap between where that trim piece would be to cover that curve and where the window is. I don't really like that idea. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to finish this rounded section off, that radius for that line off, and make sure it's perfect. And we'll put the wood trim, drop that down. So it's about the same height overall as what this is, but we'll have that right over here as well going along that way. It may work, it may not work. Good thing about it is we don't have to make the decision on that particular part until we get to installing the blinds themselves.
Back in the aft guest berth here with the line, I've probably been over it 6 or 7 times already, and we went through and did a round of priming last week, so this will be my first edition since then. It's looking really good, and so when I add it, it's probably not going to have much left that's not taken back off again. But before we get the final round of primer on, I just want to hit it a few more times. Now that I've gotten a layer over all of it, which is going to be way too much, I'm going to take our blade here at about a 45-degree angle to the wall and just pull that across, and that should give us the edge that we're looking for. Looks like the far aft part there was actually pretty low, so that did fill in a lot. And just little bits here. Now a scraper tool cleaned off. And pull down the unnecessary stuff. I'm gonna pass it one more time to try and blend that forward a little. You know how sometimes in life you can just get frustrated or overwhelmed or completely burnt out? Matt and I have just come up on year 3 of our build, and we're at a point right now where it feels like we're just not making any progress forward, which can be very frustrating. And then you think about what we still have left to do before the boat gets in the water, which is very overwhelming. And the fact that we're pushing ourselves to work so hard means that we are just in that tent by ourselves, completely isolated for weeks on end. And so sometimes that can be a little too much, which is why I would like to thank the sponsor of this portion of the video, which is BetterHelp. Sometimes it's nice when you're having problems just to have an outside party to talk to. And with BetterHelp, they have licensed therapists that are trained to listen to you and give unbiased advice, which is like really nice sometimes when you're too close to the problem. When you sign up on their website, they can get you connected with a therapist within 48 hours. And the great thing is you can find a way to work with it that fits best in your schedule. You can do face-to-face calls on your phone, computer, or tablet. You can do messaging if you get nervous on video calls, and what's nice about that part too is you can do it any time of the day. So if something's bothering you and you kind of just like even need to vent, just write it out, send it to your therapist. They're going to respond to you as soon as they have a moment. So even though most people think that therapy is for the big issues in your life, and it is good to have somebody to talk to in that case, a therapist can also help you just kind of keep your life calm by helping you through all of the small things too. And again, as somebody who's on the outside with an unbiased opinion. So we want to put a special offer out to you today by getting 10% off of your first month. Just go to betterhelp.com/mjsailing. We're going to have that in the description box below. So get started today and just kind of unclutter your mind and have someone to talk to. Now that we have this line issue more or less figured out, so we don't have to spend a ton of time prepping that before primer, especially in the head area, in this hallway, in the master thing, we're about ready to get those final coats of primer on. But there's one very important thing I completely forgot to do through all of our time in here preparing, and that is the floor coves. You've seen me work on the ones at the seams so many times before. All of these, they've been done to death. But what I hadn't done is the transition from the hull sides and the furniture to the cabin sole or the floor. Yeah, before we can move on, that needs to get done. So for the past week, I've just been kind of going through prepping the surfaces, going through with our Total Fair, which is an epoxy fairing compound, since we already have an epoxy-based primer on most of these surfaces. Right now, I'm in the owner's hallway between bulkheads, 6 behind me into our berth and 5 ahead of me into the head. So this area is looking really nice. That's the one I've been working on the most. I'm hoping that I can get maybe a first coat of primer on it tonight to see kind of how it blends into the other surfaces, but I might have to just do a little touch up. The head though, it's not looking so good. So I'm gonna go through and sand these down, see what needs to be done, and probably throw on some more fairing compound to see if I can get that primer on the next day or two. If you ever find yourself perusing our Amazon wish list and you see these little sanding things in there, do not hesitate to buy them. I know it's boring, but they help us out so much in these little blue blocks. I cannot tell you how many I go through. I actually have 2 different ones I'm using for this job because this one has been like squished down from all the times I use it, and I use like a rougher sandpaper on it. Now I don't want to get like the final thing where I'm not too aggressive, I use this one. So yeah, I absolutely love these things. Got everything sanded up now. A lot of the areas are looking really good, although on the outboard side, of course, where this big cabinet is especially, I think I skipped it on the first day, so that definitely needs another full coat. I'm going to touch up some of the areas, and hopefully it can dry within 2 to 3 hours and I can still sand it off again tonight. Primer's not looking good today though. Just finished doing the outboard side, which hadn't been very nice looking before. Got through there and damn, it is looking good. So I still have, don't ruin it, some touching up to do there. And to be honest, instead of just doing like seeking out little spots that could probably be touched up on the inside hull, like leading up to the bridge deck, I think I'm just going to cover the whole thing. I wanted to touch up before because I thought I had enough time to let it dry today, still sand it and get that primer on. But we're coming up on 4 o'clock in the afternoon right now, and that's just not going to happen. So I may as well do it well, let it cure overnight, sand it in the morning, and then hopefully this will all just be good for primer then, instead of like touching up, sanding, touching up, sanding, because I'm over that. Little interlude between Jessica projects. I had planned on having this whole feature on Matt this week because he has been working for the past few weeks kind of on our helm station here with access points, and down here where we're going to have rope storage for the lines and just regular storage. You can see here the work that's being done before they get glassed in together. I don't know what has happened, but I can't find that footage, so now I'm gonna have to go through every single SD card I own to try and find all the coverage that he did on this before. The only other option was to film it brand new today, edit it, get this episode up tomorrow. That's not gonna happen, so you're gonna have to wait another week to see that, and in the meantime, just stick with me as I do my fairing jobs across the boat. I'm so embarrassed by my work. I blame the fact that I started with pure white walls like this and that we did such a good job on the line that I can't tell where it is, but in the master shower here, that just is, brother, Before I can continue any further than that, I'm gonna try and like sand pretty much everything off. Take a pencil, draw the line, like where the center of it is in the radius, and start again. I've gone through now and sanded the line, a combination with both like our big kind of flexible sander to blend as much as possible. Of course, over the window here, I don't have as much room to move that around, especially going down. So again, these little sponges, love them to death. Just did a crosshatch think I kind of have an idea of where the center of the line was, especially in this area here where there's really no fairing compound. Probably gonna stay right about there. I don't know if you can see this side too well. It's gotten very thick and filled in. I can't really find a defined spot there that feels like the center of the line. But to be honest, as I run my hand across, it feels pretty blended. So I don't know if this is what I should be trying to bring all the way across here. And I'll give that really big radius. So I think I'm just gonna keep trying to mark some spots where I know the center is. And then at the ends here, where my trowel is gonna go, especially since I'm gonna be covering this up with that fine filler here in a second, I won't be able to see the line anymore. I don't know what you are. We're gonna go in the center here. I got my trowel here with a nice rounded edge. I'm gonna keep that at a 45 degree as I run it across. So if I kind of like find the center of the trowel here, match it up with my line, and that doesn't help me. I might just have to run this line across here and on the edges here. I'm just gonna mix up some compound and run it over. Got some of my Alex Seal Fine filler mixed up and just gonna give a light coat here now. And since I was having an issue the other day of kind of like getting the two areas blended together as it came from each side, I think what I'm going to do today is just do one side, leave like an inch or two gap, do the other side, and then once this starts to harden enough, and then I can go do the center, and hopefully that will make it overall easier for me. Find my center, keep my position. Did I do any better? I don't know. Let's try this side. Wish me luck. This side still seems to be following what I was doing before, so it makes me think that that had just been low before, and the clean edges of where the scraper was. This side though, a little more unsure. It starts out with the lines above and below and then just kind of so I'm just gonna run it over one more time without any extra fairing compound on there, see if it takes more off. If it doesn't, maybe I'll fill it again a little thicker and try it one more time. Okay, so that actually looks like it's going to end up meeting this in the center, so I'm gonna clean up the top and bottom, let this start to cure, and then fill in the middle and sand it down tomorrow. Another day of work ahead of us. I went through last night and tried to kind of like fill in the seam there. It needs sanded. It's still a little tacky, so I think I'm gonna let this sit, which means you won't be able to see any more progress on it, but I think it's starting to come together. Now I just need to get the aft berths and that little section in the guest wet head. So that is the progress with the line, but again, as soon as I get this figured out, and as soon as I finish those floor coves, we are on to final primers and paint. Just finished sanding everything, got it swept up. So now I'm going to mix up some of our high build primer and just roll that on with the foam roller to kind of see how it looks, even though it's going to be a totally different color because the primer is white, the previous primer was yellow. We'll have to see how it works. All right, got my set of Alex Steel high build primers. Just mixed up about 8 ounces with another 1 ounce of a thinner. And let's get to work. It's already swept. Just going to give everything a little wipe down. And unfortunately with these foam rollers, they don't last very long. With this, they'll start to disintegrate. So we'll see how many rounds I can get through. It's not going to need to be very thick. It would be better to be sprayed, but for such a small area like this, not really worth all of that effort and cleanup. Mostly I'm even just doing this so that once I have the area a bit more white, it's not just the green filler. I will be able to go through with a guide coat to find the low spots, fill those in, and then just the whole area will be ready for primer. I finished it, and to be honest, especially considering how much I have just struggled on coves for the seams and everywhere else, I am very impressed with how these have been coming out. There's still minimal touching up that needs to be done in some areas, but I'm gonna let this cure overnight, kind of give it just like a first sanding, and then use that guide coat to figure out where I need to fill in a few of the low spots or blend it in, but you know, all in all, it's looking really good. So I think this is an area I'll be able to check off soon. That is not a worry anymore up here with the line, at least. So maybe this whole section will be getting primer soon, fingers crossed. Wait a second. As I close out this week after having worked the coves to get a beautiful line, after having worked this line to get a beautiful radius, I am coming to a big realization, and all of these things that I have been doing are not jobs. They are art.